Now we'll go live. All right, we're here at the busy intersection of M Street and Wisconsin Avenue. This is the heart of Georgetown. And we're here at night. Last week, or the week before last, we were on the waterfront, and now we're a few blocks up on the main street. M Street is the main street. Hey, Daly. Great to see you. Glad you're here. Look, we have another beautiful, clear night ahead of a potential winter storm tomorrow. So I know I won't be able to get out tomorrow. So I'm going to try to get out today and hit some of these beautiful historic buildings. Now, this one here is not as old as it looks. This is the, Farmers and Merchants Bank, which is now a PNC bank. Everyone thinks this is the big historic building. It's not. It's a relatively new building compared to the other buildings here. This building, however, on the corner here, was present during the Civil War. It's the front entrance is marked 1200 M Street, but the official address is actually on Wisconsin Avenue, which is this street that goes north to south. This building was here during the Civil War. This corner building. And then up here, if we were to walk this way, which is north on Wisconsin Avenue, this is the main route between Washington, D.C. and Frederick, Maryland. This is Maryland Route 355. It goes from being Wisconsin Avenue, it turns into Rockville Pike, and then it turns into Frederick Road. There is one building up this road that was present during the Civil War, but we're not going to walk up there because that building is off the main street and it's behind a bunch of trees. So in one of my videos where I really dug into the architecture here, I explained where that building is and what it is today. We're going to be extraordinarily careful today walking for a couple of reasons. Number one, traffic. Number two, these are largely brick and cobblestone sidewalks, and the streets are not entirely level either. So we're going to walk extraordinarily carefully across these streets. And one can follow Wisconsin Avenue all the way down to the waterfront here. And although I concentrate in architecture that was here during the Civil War, there are many, many other worthy examples of architecture here from all periods of history. So here's a good view of that building on the corner that I mentioned was present during the Civil War. But if you look down the street, I mean, each successive building is just unique. It's such a great mix of styles, which is, as y'all can tell, that's what I love to see, just a mix of styles. And some of which are reconstructions, and that's okay. Trying to maintain the historic character of this area. This is M Street, Washington, D.C. Most of the streets are sequential. The letters are the east-west streets, and the numbers are the north-south streets. And this street used to be called Bridge Street because of the bridge over Rock Creek, which is down this way. I'm walking west to east on M Street, just taking in all these buildings. Now again, these are probably, some of these are late 1800s, early 1900s. Some of them are reconstructions of earlier buildings. But I'll point out the ones that were here that I've actually studied in the Civil War study that I published on this channel. So there is a video that goes in depth on some of these buildings, particularly marking the march of the Union Army on September 6th of 1862, making their way from the Peninsula Campaign in Virginia up to the Maryland Campaign and ultimately the Battle of Antietam. So the Army marched from Virginia all the way through Washington, D.C. It is pretty clean here. So Daly, this, this area had kind of a hard recovery from COVID, and it's back. Like, I feel like after 4 years, I think Georgetown is finally back to being definitely a place to visit. And as you notice, all these historic buildings, they're occupied by retail. But if they weren't, then these buildings might not be here at all. So I'm completely fine with respectful use of historic buildings. But this is an area where you really, this is unique, right, in terms of the number of historic structures and preserved buildings in this area. Particularly the mix in all the different styles. And I'm glad to see some people out tonight. When I was on the waterfront a few days ago, around this same time, there was no one out. So it's really nice to see some people. Now, during the Civil War and before the Civil War, when Georgetown was part of the early United States, this was a port. Too shallow now. The water here is in this part of the Potomac River is too shallow for for trading. But again, down here is the way to the water. And oh, by the way, there's a restaurant there called Il Canal, because we are also on the C&O Canal. Awesome Italian restaurant down there, Il Canal or Canale. And you can see some of the little buildings here. Okay, I'll walk down here a little bit. I just love the mix of architecture and these little buildings mixed in with it. Hey, Ben. Hiya. Hiya, Ben. But just take a look at these awesome little houses here. There are a handful of these structures that are homes. People still live here. I don't know if they live in these buildings here. But in the early days of the United States, this was a port. So many of these brick buildings are either preserved warehouses from back in the day, or they're reconstructions to look like the kind of warehouses that were here. Tobacco was a huge export here, right? Tobacco from Maryland and Virginia being exported, other things coming in. And yeah, this is the restaurant. This is Il Canale down there. Awesome restaurant. So let's get one more view of these cute little houses. Okay, and this one's being renovated. Awesome. Really nice. All right, let's go back up on the main drag up here. I'm just going to make my way to the next few main intersections and then go back to my car. So I'm out here, Ben. I didn't plan to be out here tonight. I thought I'd find a day like later in the week, but we're supposed to have a pretty big winter storm tomorrow and Wednesday. I'm hoping for a blizzard. So yeah, we're out tonight because it's a crispy cold night, very clear, which I absolutely love. Oh, Daly, you're very kind. Thank you for the shout out. Alrighty, so we're back here on the main drag, Wisconsin Avenue, and again, I'm walking super slow because of this. Not as bad as Fells Point cobblestones, but still quite tricky. And again, just looking at the mix of architecture here, you've got 3- and 4-story buildings, brick buildings mixed in with wooden clapboard structures. This one, Rag and Bone, I think some folks think it is an old, like pre-Civil War building. It's not. Probably a little after that. But I will take you right now to the oldest structure in Washington, D.C., or the oldest house on its original foundation in Washington, D.C. And here it is. And it has seen its better days. Holy moly, what happened to the railing there? All right, this must have been, unfortunately, wonder if it was vandalized in some way or if that's from weather. This is the old stone house. This is the oldest dwelling still on its original foundation in Washington, D.C. I think it was completed in 1767, and it is preserved by our National Park Service as part of the Rock Creek area. Rock Creek is the main waterway, little creek that cuts its way through Maryland and into Washington, D.C. And when I visited the zoo on Saturday, that is also part of Rock Creek, although it's many miles north of here. So right next to the old stone house, and behind the stone house, there's a garden, and you can actually visit it. And there's more back there, but it's after dark, so we won't go back on that path. These two structures, it's actually 3 homes, but it looks like 2 structures. This is called the Loughborough houses, or house, Loughborough House. And these were also here during the Civil War. And yep, I know all the buildings that were here during the Civil War after an extensive research period. Here on Thomas Jefferson Street, this is actually where I usually park my car when I'm going down to the waterfront. So the other day when I was down on the waterfront, I was parked down at the end there. But some really nice structures on that street. And I think this block is like my favorite in terms of the mix. You know, we have these 3- and 4-story brick dwellings in many different styles. We've got some wrought iron work there. And then we get to the end of this block, and this is called the Thomas Simm Lee Corner. And it's because former Maryland Governor Thomas Simm Lee owned the home. Now it looks like 4 houses, but when I get there, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna kind of show you how what looked like 4 structures are actually 2 houses that were divided into 4 structures. And I'm gonna be very careful where I walk right now because there's construction to the left of me. All right, so here we are. Now, if you look really carefully at these 2 shops, but look from the roof down, this is one building. This was one post-colonial building. It's a 4-story. If you look at the 2 fireplaces, 2 chimneys on either end, and 2 windows on the 4th floor. So you'll see that this was one building that was divided into 2. And then the next grouping with 4 windows at the top, that was one larger building divided into 3 structures today, or 3 subdivided. So you have this one, and then this one was built right next door. And there's a whole story about the gentleman that built these dwellings. Now here in Washington, D.C., and probably in other cities too, it's so nice that we've kept our historic fire call boxes. This is where, you know, if there was a fire, you ran out to the call box and you pulled the handle. I remember these still working in Baltimore into the 80s. But what many parts of Washington, D.C. have done is to take out the works, the actual phone, and to replace it with some historic information. So here there's a story, and probably on the other side is some kind of photo. I'm gonna try not to get hit by a car. Oh, no, it's just another plaque. Some of them have artwork built into them, and I've done a few videos on some of those. Now this building also, people think that's a historic building. I don't think it is. At least it didn't exist during the Civil War, during the time period that I studied. Bless you. You're welcome. Lots of great restaurants in Georgetown, great bars. Really good night scene. I'm really happy to see people out. I really am. It's awfully nice to see people out. This building here, this is actually the first, in the study that I did, I went from east to west. So I started a few blocks down. And this beige on black building here, which there's a truck in front of. We'll wait for the truck to move and we'll take a look at it. This also was here during the Civil War. Probably not painted, certainly not painted in these colors, and perhaps maybe not a storefront, but this building was here as well. And I don't think it has a name. I think I just called it beige on black. And there it is. So beige on black building. Some of them have historic markers on them and little plaques to tell us what's going on. So I'm just going to go down here. I'm going to cross the street. I'm going to come back on the other side of the street. But I do want to catch this building here that I'm walking right against. I want to catch that from across the street. But I also want to capture the plaque, the historic plaque that's here. This is a former market building. And again, although it wasn't here during the Civil War, the man who built it was a free African American by the name of Alfred Lee. So Alfred Lee had a feed and grain store here in 1867, just a few years after the Civil War. And it's a beautiful building. So it wasn't here during the Civil War, but it is certainly worth a look. So we're going to go across the street, take a look, and get the light. By the way, this building here, if you've seen my embassy videos, you'll know that this is the Embassy of Mongolia here on M Street in Georgetown. You can see the flag up there. If we had a little breeze, that would look kind of cool. Yes, there is an Embassy of Mongolia. So let's get that view of the Alfred Lee. Oh, too bad. Well, the lights are a little distracting here. But this building is the Alfred Lee Feed and Grain Store, built by a free African American after the Civil War, who is just a mainstay of this community. And it is quite a beautiful building. It looks great on a sunny day, of course, as do all the buildings here look great on a sunny day. Look, I'm not the last person to take down the Christmas tree. I'm just saying. Mine came down last week. So, no, it was like 2 weeks ago. I'm just kidding. It was late. It was definitely late January. I was traveling. So I had a little delay in getting my tree out. And here, just some of your kind of standard row houses or townhouses. I think in Washington, D.C., it's typical to call them a townhouse versus a Baltimore row house. I guess they think it's more posh to call it a townhouse. It's a row house. It's a row house. This entire corner here, I do not remember what was there, the corner diagonal from here, because it's completely demolished and under construction. So I'll have to go back through my study and find out what was there. I know it was not a historic building, because I don't remember. I would remember the name if it was. But I don't know what it is going to be. We'll have to find out what that's going to be. But we're back to the Alfred Simm Lee corner. And crossing very carefully. And there are also, I mean, as you go up the street, these side streets are just jam-packed with historic structures. This is heaven for those who like history. And here's the plaque, Thomas Simm Lee Corner. Former governor of Maryland. Built in, let's say it was built 1810. 1810 for the next group of buildings, but this group was built before that. All the beautiful brick. Some examples of, if not original glass, original panes. So this is Loughborough, some kind of fancy, smelly, soapy place. Not with the original glass, but with the original, I don't know what you call them. They're not panes. Yeah, those. And this, the other building, this is the 1810 building. It's the Ross and Getty building, part of the Georgetown Historic District, as is everything here. So even if a building is not designated as a historic building, it's almost guaranteed that it touches something historic or the ground is historic. Oh, the cupcake shop. Sprinkles is gone. Okay, cupcake shop didn't make it. Sprinkles, the cupcake shop, is gone, but the paper shop is still here. Paper Source. And across the street, more examples on this shortened block. Barnes & Noble is back. Bookstores are starting to come back, which we love. That was a Nike store or a Nike outlet, but Barnes & Noble is back, which is always a good thing to have real life bookstores back. And then we talked about the Loughborough houses. Built in 1801, so way before the Civil War. And then here's our 1767 old stone house, and we're going to be super careful walking around here. Not supposed to be in the park after dark, but just take a little peek back here. Which is kind of cool. So yes, the oldest house on its original foundation in Washington, D.C. So I'm supposing that means that there are other houses that claim to be old, but for some reason they're not on their original foundation. I have no idea why they would characterize it that way. And there's ranger programs here. And yeah, I don't know what's happened to the... That's not good. Some kind of damage there, unfortunately. Thank you. Careful of the cobbles. They will be the death of me. This is, I don't know if this is new. They've got some really great one-off shops here. It is a place to shop. The wealthy among us, the wealthy among them, come down here for some one-off shopping. Years ago, I worked on a project and I got a nice little bonus. And so I took my family to stay in one of the really fancy hotels here for a night, and it was quite fun. This one on the corner here, this white building was also here during the Civil War. Okay, was also here during the Civil War. It is now home to the German Broadcasting Company. Does ZNF? It's 3 letters. I think it's called ZNF. But the German Broadcasting Company has their, or ZDF. Maybe it's ZDF. Is there. Okay, 8 seconds. I can do it. And then lastly, this block here. All right, I know I said the last block had the best mix of architecture, but I keep changing my mind. I think this one does. Just so many different styles. And it's always a plus when they're painted different colors. I don't mind painted brick, even for a historic structure. If it's appropriate to the area, I think it's great. Look at all the different structures. 4-story, 3-story, 2-story. So many different styles. I know. I will fall. I keep saying it. I will fall on the stream at some point. You'll all be here to watch it. You probably won't see me fall. You'll just see the camera go flying. Good old Haagen-Dazs, Smoothie King. Yeah, not historic, but you know what? They keep these buildings alive. Yeah, this is post-COVID. All these barriers went up. And you can see it across the street as well. These barriers went up so that the restaurants could operate with outdoor seating. But of course, on a busy street like this, that was pretty impossible. So parking was given up. And there weren't that many people here. So it was okay to give up parking. And here we are 4 years later. And the temporary extra sidewalk space has continued. And most of the outdoor restaurant seating continued. So I guess that's a plus from the nastiness of COVID. Although eating outdoors here with a lot of traffic, especially the buses, I don't know. Pollution's not as bad here as it used to be, but I wouldn't want to eat in the street next to a bus or a tractor trailer like that one. All right, more cobbles. Like I said, this is the main street, Georgetown, and lots of traffic. Well, Daly and Ben and everyone else, thank you so much for joining the stream. If there's anyone else here, please throw a note in chat. Tell us where you're from. This is Georgetown, part of Washington, D.C. I'm at the corner where I began. I'm across the street. I began over there, the corner of M Street and Wisconsin Avenue. And I'm across from it. Now looking up Wisconsin Avenue. I might walk up just a little bit because there's another little historic structure up here, not from the American Civil War, but from the mid 20th century. If you live on the East Coast and you were here in the 60s and 70s, maybe 50s and 60s, before my time, there was a hamburger joint called Little Tavern. It's kind of like the White Castle of the Mid-Atlantic. And they were these little taverns, and there are very few of these left in the United States. There are actually 2 of them here in Georgetown, within walking distance of each other. It's rare to find one, but to find 2 within walking distance is pretty amazing. So if you're here and you want to find them, one of them is on M Street, west of here, And the other one is here on Wisconsin Avenue. And I believe we're going to be at the corner of Wisconsin and N Street. So LMN OPQRSTV. And we'll come up here. We'll check out the little tavern building. We'll check out the Georgetown Theater up there. Nice neon sign. And then I will end the stream because my fingers are frozen. And I need to get ready for the winter storm that we're going to get tomorrow. Yay! I want a blizzard. I want a blizzard. So thanks for joining my chat, everyone. Okay, I mentioned earlier that I wasn't going to come up this street, and I did. And I mentioned that there was one Civil War era building on this street, and this is it. But because it's behind trees and it's situated up there, it's the John Lutz building. It was also called the Female Benevolent Society of Washington. It's a private building now with private tenants, so I don't like to creep around buildings where people are. It's just me. And then up here, again, just more of a mix of architecture. If I were to continue up this street for like 10 miles, I'd be in Bethesda, Maryland. This is Wisconsin Avenue, turns into Rockville Pike, which is Maryland Route 355, which turns into Frederick Road. It takes you all the way to Frederick, Maryland. And this is, let me get the better view. Okay, I don't have the light. I'm gonna wait for the light and cross over so you can see the better view of this, what used to be a little tavern hamburger stand, which is, despite all of the colonial and post-colonial architecture around here, I think some historians might argue that this is probably the most culturally relevant preserved building here in Georgetown. And this is a long light. And it's good for pedestrians, but I'm trying to cross in the other direction. I'm going to be extra careful. All right, countdown. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on. Ah! And then the cyclists get you. Then the cyclists go after you. All right, I want to see if I can cross. Okay, I can cross now. Quickly. And here we are. Little Tavern. It is currently dig. I'm so glad it is, because that means this building is preserved. There are, as I mentioned, there are 2 of these in Georgetown. There are very few across, the East Coast. I'm not even going to say, you could probably count on one, maybe just on 2 hands, maybe fewer than 10 of these survive. But 2 of them are within walking distance here in Georgetown. So obviously a landmark. And just a quick look up Wisconsin Avenue, the Georgetown Theater neon sign, which is pretty cool. And I think this is a good place to end the stream. Daily, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Ben, thank you for dropping by. Everyone else who came by, drop a note in chat. Let us know where you're from. If you wouldn't mind, hit the like button. Have a good night. If you're on the East Coast like I am, batten down the hatches. Enjoy the snow. Take care.